for the physics and biology IDU, depending on how complex your IDU is going to be. These are the kind of ideas you can do. One of the things you can start with is collecting your data to draw a cumulative frequency graph. And let's see how we do that. For example, let's say I'm going to analyse the frequency of how many siblings a person has. Let's create the following table. So as you can see, I'm going to say that 4 people have 0 siblings, 16 people have 1 sibling, etc. Because these data values are a bit crazy in the frequency column, I will change these in a moment. Now, we want to work out the cumulative frequency. Whenever you're doing any equation in Excel, you need to press the equals sign. Cumulative frequency is just based on sums. Remember, when we are calculating this variable, the cumulative frequency after the first row is just the sum of the first row. In the second row, it's going to be the sum of the first row and the second row. In the third row, it's going to be the sum of the first, the second and the third. So this is how you would do it. You could write equals, and this one, because it's just one value, you're going to type equals C3 and then press enter. The next one we're going to do is going to be a little bit more complicated. We're going to type equals sum, brackets. Now we're going to choose one value and then a second value. Let me rewind that and show you again. We're going to select a range between C3 to C4. Now you can type this directly into Excel or Google Sheets, or you can select one cell, press the Shift button and then select the arrow down key to select a selection of numbers. We're going to do the same for this one, equals sum. And we're going to select this time 3 values. This one's going to be equal sum, and then we're going to select 4 values. Carry on watching the video. For this value, I'm going to change the cumulative frequency, and I will do so for the last 2 as well. Have a think as to why I've ended the IDU on 70. Excellent, this is a nice number. So for your particular experiment, you might find it difficult. You might not have exactly a frequency of 70. And this is when it's going to be a little bit more difficult in your IDU, and you're going to have to use your creative skills. So what we want to do is we want to select both the original number of siblings data and then the new cumulative frequency values. The way I did that is as follows. You're going to select the cumulative frequency, and when you paste them, you need to click Paste Special, which is here. After we press Paste Special, you need to press Paste Values Only. Now you would do this if your previous thing that you're going to paste newly now is based on a formula. And because it's based on a formula, you want it to refer to the numbers in the cells you're pasting from, not the formulas. Because if you paste the formulas and do a normal paste, it will shift what cells you're doing the formulas on. It's a little bit complicated, but just remember to click Paste Values Only if you're copying something which is derived from formulas. Then what we want to do is we want to select these 2 values, which is siblings versus the cumulative frequency, and insert a chart. Press Insert and then Chart. You need to change the chart type, so we're going to click on that now. On the chart type, we are going to change it from what we had previously, and we're going to change it into a line chart, as you can see here. There's some other variables that we would like to change, and let's discover them now. If you go on to customize and then vertical axes, this tells us how many lines are going through the vertical axes. So at the moment, the jumps from 0 to 20 is 20 jumps, but it's only defined by one line. We want to increase the number of lines between 0 and 20. So where we will change this is as follows. We will change where I just pointed to, which is to do with the horizontal and vertical axes, but we also want to make the cumulative frequency smooth. So that's another additional thing you need to do go on to customize smooth. And this is because cumulative frequency should always be a smooth line, not a straight jagged line. So we've gone back to the vertical axes now, and I am going to select a number of choice. I'm going to select 10, and you can now see that we split this area up into 10 different lines. So this means if we want to read from the cumulative frequency graph, we will get more specific information rather than just randomly guessing. And we could change it to 20, that's even more specific again. And now we're going to go on to the horizontal axes. So we change this using the drop down menu to the horizontal axes, and this is horizontal as it's going across the page. We're going to change this to, let's say, 1. And the reason why we want 1 is because we're going from 0 to 2, we only need one line which will represent the number 1. So that would be 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. You can't really see the line on the screen, but you should be able to see it on your screen. Now, when you're doing the cumulative frequency, what you've got to make sure is that you're analysing the total frequency. This is not necessarily this number. The total frequency, as we've talked about before, is 70. So to find the median, you are going to have to find 35. Obviously, in your IDU, make sure this is exact. You go across and then down. Your variables on the X and Y axes are going to be completely different. So let's not focus too much on the answer, but your answer is going to be approximately this. That would be the median because it's halfway between 0 and 70. Then, to find quartile 3 or the upper quartile, we have to find 3/4 of 70. So we've got 35 plus 17.5, so that's going to be 52.5. 52.5, this is going to be about 50, 52.5. Obviously do it more precisely when you're doing your IDU. Draw a line across and then a line down. Thank goodness this straightens it out for me. This is going to be what we call quartile 3 or the upper quartile. Then last but not least, we can find the lower quartile, that's around about 17.5. The answer is going to be here. This is what we'll call quartile 1. Now, this is finding different bits of information from the cumulative frequency graph. You can then apply it to a box plot. Let's have a look about how we would do that. Box plot grapher. What you then need to do is fill in this information using the cumulative frequency and your general knowledge. Title is easy. Graphs, well, we might have one or we might have more than one, but we're talking about one in this instance. Min is going to be the smallest possible X variable. So in our experiment, the smallest variable was 0 because it was to do with 0 siblings. This was the maximum. And the quartile 1, median and 3, we've already calculated. Now, this is relevant if you're doing more than one box plot. The overall min is the smallest out of the 2 box plots. The overall max is the smallest out of the 2 box plots. If it's the same as before, you just copy these in. Distance doesn't really matter. Write 1 and then write a relevant title for the axes. And you could probably play around with these and then just press draw here. So that is how you draw a cumulative frequency graph, analyse it, and then draw a box plot. Later on in the IDU, you'll have to analyse the box plots, and I'll give you information on how to do this. Another thing you can do is show the marker, your science teacher and myself, how you are going to think about showing your results are correct. So let's say we had another set of results, and normally you would go for the results you had previously, but I'm going to just show you an example too, as it will be a little bit easier for this. Let's say that we're going back to siblings, but our experiment isn't going to be as large for this one. And it doesn't actually matter which order we put the numbers in. Let's say this was a collection of different people, and these were the number of siblings they told the interviewer how much they had. Now, in order to work out things like quartile, min and max, we can really easily do that using Excel. So what you need to write is some subheadings: min, median, max, and then obviously we've got lower quartile or quartile 1 and quartile 3. Remember that the median is also quartile 2, it's the same thing. And then we're going back to our favourite formulas. Now, Google Sheets and Excel is normally quite counterintuitive. You press equals and then you press min. It gives you some options. There we go, we're going to press this one. And we're going to go the minimum value of this. Now this is quite easy, but if you're working with decimals, this is easier. Let's say we're going to do for quartile 1. So you're going to type in quartile to a specific quartile of a data set. That's what we want. Then it says you've got to input the data, then a comma, then the quartile number. So the data we're going to do is all of this. And then we're going to put a comma. And then we're going to put quartile number 1. The median. Rather than typing the median exactly, I'm going to copy and paste this over. And then I'm going to just change this to be median. And you can see that because I've copied and pasted it down one cell, the orange dotted line has shifted down one cell. And that's not ideal. And there's one way we can get over this. Go back to the original data and you put dollar signs after the letter and before the letter. You put dollar signs after the letter and before the letter, which means when you copy and paste this, the actual numbers don't change. That's a really cool tip. Now the median can be done in a couple of ways. We could either say we want to find quartile 2, or we could do it using a similar method, but changing this to the median and then pressing enter. You can see that it's the same answer. This one then, it needs to be quartile 3, change it to number 3, and the maximum, again, we're going to put dollar signs around this. You don't have to do this, but it might make things a bit quicker, and we're going to change this to the max. So then we could corroborate this information with the cumulative frequency graph, and we could discuss why our values are slightly different. I hope that is a useful first sort of tips for the biology and the physics ID.